Hello, my name is Mildred Towns. I'm the host and life coach of Let's Be Real About It. It's a talk show, and this show is where we can be true and we can be real about life issues. We can speak about the traumatic and devastating things that have occurred in our lives or that may be occurring right now at this present time. We will talk with people from all races, all cultures, all religions, all nationalities, because hurt, pain, devastation, and traumatic experience has the ability to affect us all. It doesn't care. It crosses boundaries. It has no respect to person. So nobody is exempt from it. So it's time that we face the truth. It's time that we be real about the truth. It's time that we face life and stop passing the buck, as it say, or the buck, as it say. It's time to stop pointing the finger. It's time to be real. It's time to be real about what's happening in your life. It's time to be real about the issues in your life, because I know you, like me, want to be delivered and want to be set free and healed. And this is your opportunity. So let's be real about life. Let's be real about what's happening in your life. Let's be real about the life situations. God bless. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Be Real About It, where we are real about real life issues. I am your host, Mildred Towns. Our disclaimer is that this is a no-holds-barred zone. Therefore, some of the contents of the show may be offensive to some, but this is not the intent of the show. Before I introduce my guest tonight, I want to introduce you to my book, Truth, My Closet Secrets Revealed. It's a book of my life story, and I just pray that you order my book, read my book, and let it transform your life. And hear me, a cry from the womb is for anyone who's of childbirth age. You may be thinking about right now aborting your child. Please order this brochure before you make that final decision. Send me an email to ihurtministries@gmail.com, and I will send you the information on how to order your book. I do want to give special thanks tonight to my sponsors, J&K Style Grill, right here in Virginia Beach, to Zion City of Deliverance, and to our anonymous sponsor. I want to thank you all for what you give and what you do to help support the work of the ministry. I am excited about my guest tonight. Brave enough to come back for part 2. My guest is evangelist Juanita Lightfoot. Thank you, girl, for coming back and being a part of part 2.
Thank you.
This battle. And as I told her earlier in part 1, I labeled this as the title, I was lost, but now I'm found. And it fits perfectly for her story. And if you missed the first part, you're going to have to go back and listen to the first part. I'm going to do a quick little recap. But first of all, I want her to introduce herself, and then I'm going to do a recap, and then we're going to pick up where we left off at, and you knowing what these flags are, these red flags to look for in a relationship. So, Evangelist, I'm going to go ahead and get you to introduce yourself.
Juanita Lightfoot, 34, born and raised in Flint, Michigan. Glad to be back on the show.
Amen. I'm glad to have you back to tell that story, girl, because you're going to bless so many women, so many young girls right now that's out there battling and just now getting out into the grown-up world. You know, and don't understand what to look for in a man. You know, these red flags are so important. So I just want to get a quick recap. You grew up in the church, a church kid. You was put out of your parents' home, you left the church, had a stillborn birth, and began to drink excessively. And you was involved in an abusive relationships. Well, not only one, you was involved with, if I'm not mistaken, 3 abusive relationships. So we want to go back and we want to start off with the third relationship, which you had three, but we're going to start back off with the third relationship, uh, that where he felt the need to be physical and the red flags that you saw but ignored them. So we're going to
Okay.
start there. And then I want you to talk about 2 years into the relationship, what happened at the cookout, and talk about this young man's response to that.
So, like I said before, the relationship was one. I can most way I can put it is that we moved too fast. This was honestly a total stranger, in a sense. We only were together within a month, and we were already living together. So within that month of knowing each other, visiting at his house, seeing the holes punching in the wall, seeing the temper, seeing the manipulative behavior, seeing the way he treated women in his life, seeing the lack of respect he would have here and there for just women in general, and it just was these things I saw, but I was so attracted to the toxic behavior of the drinking. That once again, that's what I always had in common with these guys was that they like to drink, I like to drink. He bought me liquor. We had a good time when we drunk, but it was just a point to where, okay, when you come down off of that slump or that stumber, that high from being drunk, you come down and now you're seeing a person for who they really are, and so these tempers, this temper tantrum, it became more and excessive to where when we had that barbecue and we were both out of our mind drunk. And I remember it was a situation I was confronting him about. And so we were down in the basement of our home that we shared. And so the stairs were brick stairs. And so next thing I know, I'm seeing lights because he's punching my head into these stairs. And so it was like almost like an out of body experience with any of these situations that happen with these men. Every time this situation happened, because I wasn't sober, it was almost like me looking at myself and looking at this happening. And then I will always see the after effects of it. When I look at myself in the mirror, seeing the black eye, seeing the blood, seeing all these things happen to me, like, why is this my life? You know what I'm saying? And so the difference is with this third relationship than it was with the first is that I'm a mother. So how do you hide this from your kids? How do you hide the cries from your kids? How do you hide the black eyes from your kids? So it was just like, it was to a point where I didn't really like myself. I didn't like the person I became. And I feel like in this third relationship is when God really started really dealing with me and just really had me seeing myself, like really just kept putting a mirror in my face. Like, you're about to kill yourself, because not only are you allowing yourself to be in these negative relationships, allowing yourself to call yourself beloved by these men that don't care nothing about you, but you're still drinking. You're still killing yourself. So you're killing yourself on the inside and you're letting these men kill you on the outside. I was lost. I was beyond lost. I really was.
So how did that affect your daughters? When they, because they had to see you with the black eyes, they had to see you, uh, maybe in some kind of distress, or how was they affected by this?
So none of the situations ever happened right in front of my daughters. But there were situations where my daughters heard me cry.
Hmm.
And so, or they would just see me sad and they would just see me just not happy. And so it was like a really dark time. And feel like I was slowly but surely pulling them into my darkness. And so that's why I had to get to a point of me really being fed up. And so that kind of right there is a message to any woman, whether man too, if you're in a situation You have to get to a point to where you're so fed up to where you honestly say, you know what, I've had enough, that I have to, if I'm not going to do better for myself, I'm going to do better for my kids. I want them to see better. And that's what I'm like, for me to have two little girls, and I allowed it to go on for 3 years, us living together in this toxic home, allowing this man to treat them crazy, allowing him to treat me crazy. And it was just all the way bad. And I allowed it because I allowed the devil to lie to me. The devil lied to me some years before, telling me that this was the only love I was going to ever have, was a man saying they love me but still putting their hands on me. He fed me that lie for a very long time, that I wasn't going to ever have a knight in shining armor. I wasn't going to never be in a real relationship, that this was what the relationship was going to be. It was going to be somebody cheating on me, somebody that putting their hands on me, and someone that's disrespecting me. That was the only love that I was going to be deserving of. And it wasn't until I got so fed up that I finally got a chance to decide to walk away from that.
And talk about, since you mentioned earlier, talk about the self worth and how you felt as though you needed a man to validate you, and you always felt that you wasn't pretty enough, that you wasn't smart enough, that you wasn't good enough, because a lot of people deal with that right now, and so a lot of men prey upon that. Because when you feel bad about yourself, then they gonna prey upon that. So talk about that.
So it kind of stems from the first relationship. And even before then, and I say before that first relationship, I was in little puppy love stuff here and there, but I was always cheated on. I mean, always, always. I never was enough for a guy. I always had a guy that had something on the side. And so I never felt like Juanita was enough. I never felt like what I was doing was enough. I never felt like I was pretty enough. I never felt like my butt was big enough, or my titties was big enough, or that I was doing anything good enough, because I can never keep a man to just want me. And so I always tried to go that extra mile. I always try to do a little bit more. Oh, ooh, look at me. Look at what I'm doing for you. Oh, love me because I'm doing this. And so I was always seeking this attention for somebody to love me. And it was just this emptiness in my heart. And so it stemmed from that first relationship. And then within, like I said, losing my daughter, losing my daughter took a lot out of my heart. And I really always felt this emptiness. And so within any of these toxic relationships, I was always looking for something that they were never giving me. And so it wasn't until when I decided to give my life to God, that God finally just told me that you keep looking for all you need when I'm right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm everything that you need. I am the one that's going to feel this love. I am the one that you should be seeking for. And so that's why I'm so grateful and thankful for God for filling that void. Instead of me always looking for these things in man, and a man can't give it to me. Even a man that wouldn't put their hands on me, they can't give me the things that I was looking for. Only God can feel that. And so that was the thing, to where I'm going deep and dark into this dark hole because of how much I allowed the devil to use me, and how much dirt I allowed the devil to pull me into, and how many lies I allowed the devil to tell me, that he kept me thinking that I would never be deserving of a love, and not understanding that this love that I was looking for was in God. I didn't know, because this was not something I was taught growing up. I wasn't taught that God would give me this love. I wasn't. And so it was like, for me to, even though I was born and raised in the church, it was certain things that did not prepare me for what I was going to need going to the world. And so it was like that hole that I was looking for these men to fulfill. Nobody ever told me that God would be the one to do it.
Nobody ever tell you that because we grew up in the church. Me and my siblings
Yeah.
grew up in the church, and in holiness, just like with the Church of God in Christ. In holiness, but we were never told. We was always told to keep yourself, and always told not to have sex. Let me put it like that, not to
Right.
have sex. But they never told us what do you do when you get the urge. What do you
Right.
do? You growing up, a girl, and you growing up, you reach teenage, and here you are, you have these desires. So what do you do with them?
Right.
We were never told. We were never told what to do with all these feelings, all of these desires. So I can understand. And well, let me ask you this, and I know you just mentioned this in your own opinion, and I know you, like I said, you just mentioned this in your own opinion. Do you feel that you was pre prepared for life and life issues being
No,
a church kid?
no. I was nowhere near prepared to be out in the world at 18. I was not. I was not. I wasn't prepared to pay bills. I wasn't prepared to handle and going to school and having a job. I wasn't prepared for even really being in a relationship. I wasn't prepared for, like you just said, for what happens when you have sex before marriage. I wasn't prepared for what would happen if you got pregnant. I wasn't prepared for any of that. All I knew was, like you just said, I just knew it was holiness or hell.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that either do this for the Lord or you going to hell. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was like, once I made that decision to not go to church, I had in my mind, oh, I'm going to hell. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know I didn't know nothing outside of that. There wasn't something taught to where it was like, that you're not going to be perfect. That's not what we were taught. We weren't taught that you're not going to be perfect. We was taught that you better be perfect or you're going to hell.
Perfect. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like, I was never taught that, hey, you might fall, you might have a little couple bumps and bruises along the way, you might stumble a little bit, but get back up and get back on the horse and try again. I wasn't taught that, because I could have saved a whole bunch of years of heartache if I would have
Yes,
known
Lord.
if I would have
Yes,
known that he
Lord.
would still accept me with all of these bruises. He would still accept me. I would have been back on the train a long time ago. It would have saved a lot, but it just, that wasn't the way the old church worked. The old church was just this and that, and that's it. They considered so much to be sin that wasn't even in alignment to the word of God. It
Mm-hmm.
just was. I wasn't prepared. That's the best way I can put it. It's just, I wasn't prepared. They didn't. It didn't. I wasn't. I wasn't.
Oh, girl, I know because I wasn't prepared either. Because I started having sex at age 13.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't prepared.
Right.
Have had this look of holiness. Wearing the skirts, wearing the bobby socks, looking holiness, looking
Right.
holy. Put it like that, looking holy. But girl, I was so far away from holiness. The only thing I had was the look.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I had was just that look, and nothing. I had nothing to keep me as a young girl, and nobody to tell me anything because my mother could only tell me what she knew. You know,
Yeah.
so beyond what she knew, she couldn't tell me anything. And my mother didn't talk about sex and didn't talk about when you get your cycle. It's a possibility you can get pregnant if you have sex, and
Yeah.
and all this kind of stuff. And being a young lady, becoming into womanhood, and being a young lady, there are so many things that need to be taught. And I know sometimes you can't go outside of other parents and talk about it. But these young girls need an outlet, need people they
Yeah.
can talk to. And I know that you, if I'm not mistaken, work with young
Mm-hmm.
people in your church.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice do you give the young ladies in your church? And not just being holy, which we have to be, but how to carry yourself and maintain yourself when temptation comes.
Yeah, and I would tell people, like, one, it comes from having a relationship with God. So have a relationship with God, and within having that relationship with God, God will give you that out, so you can pray. Because I mean, me as being a single woman, come on now. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I get these desires. So it's just a point of having a relationship and not a Sunday performance, and that's like you just said, you were looking the part. And so that's what we're being taught. We're being taught to look the part, but we're not being taught to have a relationship with God. Because when you have a relationship with God, that's when it makes all the difference. That's where God is able to speak to you. He's able to give you an out. He's able to help you within those urges, in those temptations, so that you can still be holy at the end of it. And not just look holy, because that's where a lot of people, they rather do their dirt in the dark and still look like this in the light. And it's like, I would rather be real, and say, God, I'm battling with this. I need you to help me with this. I need you to help me with whatever and that's why I tell them too. I'm like, be honest with God. God is here to help you. He wants you to talk to him. Don't just go to him when, you in a crisis and you're praying, oh Lord, you got to get me out. No, just talk to him as your friend. Take everything to him. Cast all of these cares on him and say, Lord, I'm putting my sexuality in your hands. I'm putting this immorality in your hands. I don't want to go against your will. I want to be right, but I want to be real and tell you I'm battling with this. This is an issue. I'm thinking things in my thoughts, or I'm looking at things in my phone I ain't got no business looking at. Lord, I need you to take this away from me. So it's a point of having a relationship with God. And once you have that relationship and you open yourself fully to him, he will show you the way, which way to go. It's not going to happen overnight, and you will still be tempted, but he will give you an out within that temptation. But it only comes from having that relationship.
Only come from having that relationship. Because, like you said, being single, I'm single, you single, we have desires too. And, sometimes I say to my girlfriend, God can let a single girl at least, have sex at least 4 times, a year, every season. Like, he would do that. He give us these desires, girl, but then tell us you can't have sex outside of marriage. But then he ain't sending the men to marry. I'm like, God, what's up with that? What's up with that? He was at least 4 times a year, but God is God. He ain't gonna change his mind just because I asked him to.
No.
But it would be nice if he would at least, like I say, at least 4 times a year, girl. Don't you agree? 4 times a year.
Just 4.
Every season.
Yeah.
But anyway, girl. I do want you to give you some time to minister to just to us. I do want you to go back to the red flags, and I do want you to talk about the red flags, because we so often ignore the red. Like I told you, I have ignored so many red flags in past relationships that I should have been aware of, and that should have been the open door to run, but stayed in the relationships and ended up like, oh my God, what in the world? So I do want you to talk about that. And I just want you to mention what maybe God have on your heart, to the women, not to just the women. Let me put it like this, to the men as well. Just whatever God have laid on your heart to talk to us about.
Okay. Well, first thing I would start off with is a quote by the late, great Maya Angelou. This is one of my favorite quotes. And this is something that I guess as I pinpoint is tied to all of the foolishness I was ever in. And that quote is, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. And so within going in a relationship, those first initial, couple weeks, you're always trying to do your best, put on the best smile. You're trying to put on this persona. And so many times you go in these relationships and people have not only a guard up, but they have a mask on. But if you just know that slowly but surely they're taking the mask off. And sometimes they take it off just to get a reaction out of you. And they always say, oh, I'm just playing. Oh, no, that was just a joke. Oh, I was just trying to see what she was doing. So they try to see what they can do to get a reaction out of you, but they shows you who they really are. So they showed you that they're a womanizer. They showed you that they have a temper problem. They showed you that they have an aggression problem. They showed you that they could care less about authority, that they have to be in control. So when they show these aggressive behaviors, run.
Run.
That's all I can really say.
Run.
Run. Because it's like, honestly, a real man doesn't need to be a dominating figure. A real man, they know when to be sensitive and when to say, okay, I'm a wear the pants in this relationship. They know when to do it, but it's not an always thing. And they know how to have that emotional connection. A real man. So now you have these little boys that try to be men, and they just try to imitate what they see. They imitate what they think makes them a man. But then, like I said, they have these temper tantrums. And so you see it when they don't get their way. You see it when they're punching holes. You see it when they're breaking things. You see it when they try to possess your time, that what you're doing every 2 minutes. That's not cute. And that was one thing with me in one of my relationships, the first relationship. He always wanted to know where I was at. And I thought it was cute. Like, oh, he's always checking on me. No, that's not cute. He's trying to always have control of your whereabouts. If you can't go a couple hours at being at work and he got to see what you're doing, or he got to pop up at your job, that's not cute. That is a manipulative behavior. And so that's why anything I would tell any young woman in a relationship, pay attention to those signs when they start, always want to be around you. Like, say you make plans with your friends or make plans with your family. They're like, oh no, come here, be with me. They're trying to slowly but surely cut you off from the world so that they can have control over you. If they don't want you to go to school, they don't want you to better yourself. They think that you're fine with what you're doing. That's a manipulative behavior. That's a womanizing behavior. That's a narcissist behavior. And then if they're always trying to give you something to have a good time, if you can't have a good time around a person being sober, that is not the one from you. If y'all always got to be drinking, you always got to be smoking, you always got to be taking pills, whatever the vice is, but you always have to be under influence for him to say, oh, I'm just trying to have a good time. He's not for you. More than likely, you're just the thing for right now, and he got something else for later on. He's not for you. So it's just all these little behaviors that they show you, but they're not putting it off that this is the real them. They're just showing you little signs here and here, like, this is who I am, this is what I want. Or if they constantly want you to change something about yourself. Like, oh, why don't you wear your hair like this person? Oh, why don't you do this? If they can't accept you for how God made you, they want to keep trying to change you. Oh, you should put on a couple pounds. Or, oh, you should lose a little bit of weight. Or, oh, don't you think this is cute? They're trying to put you into a picture in their head. They don't want you. And so that's one thing. It's like, you have to pay attention to these signs. You have to just take a mental note, like, you know what? This person is trying to change. This person has not accepted who I am. And then the main thing I could tell you, if they bring up, if you make more money than a man and they bring it up, not every man is okay with a woman making more money than them. And that was the issue in all my relationships, was that I always made more money than them. And that was a point of their aggression. They felt like less than. Even though I never made it an issue, I never brought it up. But if a man cannot accept that he makes less than his woman and has to bring it up in situation, or even bring it up when he's under the influence of something, run.
Run.
So it's like, honestly, you have to open your eyes. You have to open your ears and walk away from just the I love you. A lot of times a man can punch you in your face and say, oh, well, I'm doing that because I love you. Oh, I'm hitting you, but I love you though. I love you though. And it's just a point to where we have to just remember what people are saying. Like I said, like Maya Angelou said, when a person show you who they really are, You got to believe them the first time.
Yes, girl. Yes. I thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I mean, it's been a blessing. And I know
Thank
people are
you.
going to be blessed. So quickly, tell them how they can get in contact with you.
Find me on Facebook, just Juanita Lightfoot on Facebook.
Girl, I'm telling you, we're going to have to get you back again.
Yes.
I want you all to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I heard Ministry Saturday 4.22 Guest Towns. And I just want to thank all our guests nationally and internationally for watching. And until next week, may the peace of God reign, rule, and abide in your hearts. I'm Mildred Towns. Thank you for